So you always have to be Bruce Banner. Always be Bruce Banner and never release the Hulk unless you go to the gym. That's where you get to be the Hulk for an hour or two. Welcome to Vigorous PEDs. I'm Coach Steve. Let's discuss Tren Rage, not Tren Cough. I already made a video about that. And it's not exactly Roid Rage either. Trenbolone gives you next level Roid Rage, so let's just call it Tren Rage. And you see that with some of the other anabolic androgenic steroids, is that they actually put you in a good mood, like testosterone and Dianabol, for example. And most of the DHT derivatives, like Primobolan, which I mentioned in the Primobolan video series, is that they just make you irritable. But Trenbolone, that's some next level Roid Rage, man. Now, what I saw in the comment section of some of the other Trenbolone profile video series videos is that they don't suffer any sort of anger management or any sort of rage or irritability when they run, various dosages of Trenbolone. But unfortunately, that's not the norm. And I'm honestly a little bit jealous of you guys that don't experience any of these side effects, because personally I would be able to deal with the Tren cough symptoms or the insomnia or the insane night sweats or maybe the acid reflux that, is commonly associated with Trenbolone as well. But the anger management and the Tren Rage, no way, man. I couldn't deal with it. And it was a blessing that my wife basically told me to get off the Tren because, I'm a much better person without it. But for the guys that are still interested in running Trenbolone, here's a video on how to deal with the Tren Rage. What I want to do is interject the personality and behavioral disorders in the fitness industry video series and combine Tren Rage with anger management or Roid Rage and just make one video instead of doing two videos in these different video series. So where does it come from? Well, Trenbolone is extremely androgenic. When you look at the anabolic to androgenic ratio and compare that to testosterone, it's 5 times higher. 500 on the anabolic rating and 500 on the androgenic rating, where testosterone is 100 and 100, and Primobolan is lower, Boldenone is lower, Mastellone varies a little bit, and Trenbolone is pretty high up there. Now, the issue is that Trenbolone is usually run for a prolonged period of time during a cutting phase. So not only are you irritable and angry because you're lowering your calories and your blood sugar might be all over the place, because you have maybe 3 carbohydrate meals per day or maybe one, sprinkle in a little carbohydrates pre-workout and like a handful of rice post-workout, and your blood sugar is fluctuating throughout the day, making you irritable regardless, and then you throw the Trenbolone on top, and you're the full-blown Tren Rage maniac. And that's the unfortunate scenario during contest prep. I mean, I've done many diets drug-free, maybe 10 or 12, and I was already extremely irritable and angry and, unnecessarily angry about certain things when I was dieting. And then when I added the Trenbolone on top, I became impossible. So, and I'm sure a lot of you guys experienced it also. It's not the case for everybody, but it's a very small amount of people that can get away with a high dose of Tren while they're cutting and not experience any of the mood issues. Now, when I moved to Thailand, and I'm not sure if it's culturally related, but the Thai guys here, there's no Roid Rage here. There's no Tren Rage. It's non-existent. And I think that's the culture where they don't express so much of their anger outside, because then they lose face. Showing anger here and frustration makes you lose face. You can be happy-go-lucky, etc. Sometimes it's a little bit of a facade, but it helps to keep the entire society, pretty leveled and entertained and happy. So I think it's a cultural thing right here in Thailand. Like, I've helped so many Thai guys, and they were on Trenbolone for their cutting phase in preparation for a contest, and there's no Tren Rage whatsoever. And I'm jealous, man. Really, because all the Westerners that I've coached, as soon as you sprinkle the Trenbolone in, they become impossible too. So part of that comes from taking Trenbolone in a caloric deficit, and some of that comes from its extreme androgenicity. Another issue that contributes to tren rage is insomnia or sleep deprivation, which is already pretty common during the cutting phase or contest prep because your metabolism is sped up, whether that's from frequent meals or thyroid medication or, all the fat burners that are usually sprinkled in. So you're already a little bit insomniac or sleep deprived without the trenbolone. And of course, because the trenbolone is a potent androgen, it keeps you awake also. So some guys are lucky to get like 4 to 2 hours of sleep per night and then maybe do a power nap during the day, which is not enough to reset your brain and restore your central nervous system and, put everything into place while you're dreaming. So ideally you would, even when you're taking tren, regardless of the dose, you should get at least 6 hours of sleep per night and perhaps a power nap of 30 minutes to 1 hour if you can do that with your job. If you're self-employed, it's pretty easy. I take a power nap every day. Even though I don't take tren, I still take a power nap. 4 o'clock, 30 minutes. The lights go out and I'm fresh as a daisy afterwards. Now, that doesn't contribute to the overall brain reset, but it just prevents you from getting sleepy later in the day and improves your overall productivity. So when you're on trenbolone, sleep aids don't have to be drugs, but sleep aids will really contribute to the overall sleep quality and reduce some of the tren rage that you might experience during the day. So my favorite sleep stack is 100 milligrams to 200 milligrams of 5-HTP, 3 milligrams to 6 milligrams of melatonin, 1,000 to 2,000 milligrams of phenibut, or 2,000 to 3,000 milligrams of GABA, and you can alternate those on separate days. Again, because trenbolone depletes serotonin levels and, changes the GABAergic system in the brain. But with phenibut and GABA, there might be a little bit of a tolerance issue. So I found that if you alternate them on separate days, there's no buildup of tolerance or you don't get addicted to GABA or phenibut if you decide to run it continuously. Now with melatonin, some people say you build up a tolerance, but I don't feel that's the case. When I discontinue melatonin for several days, I can sleep just fine. But if you discontinue melatonin by itself, or 3 to 6 milligrams when you're using trenbolone, the insomnia returns with a vengeance. So, keep that in mind. Once you add in the melatonin, you need to continue with the melatonin for as long as trenbolone is active in the bloodstream. And keep in mind that trenbolone is detectable, or the metabolites are detectable for up to 5 months after the last injection. So just because you stopped injecting trenbolone doesn't mean it might not exacerbate insomnia for months afterwards. Keep that in mind. Keep the 5-HTP, melatonin, and phenibut or GABA in to improve overall sleep quality and reduce the possibility for tren rage, or at least the intensity of the tren rage, because you're no longer sleep deprived. Now, there's a couple optional supplements you can add on top. Let's say you're doing a cutting phase and you're dieting and you're using clenbuterol. In most cases, the beta-2 adrenergic response to clenbuterol slowly downregulates, after which ketotifen is introduced, usually around 1 milligram before bed, to upregulate the beta-2 receptors and make clenbuterol more effective again. But ketotifen makes you pretty drowsy. So if you're in a scenario where you're taking trenbolone during cutting phase and you're adding clenbuterol on top to speed up the fat loss and it becomes less effective, then ketotifen will improve sleep quality and make the clenbuterol more effective again. So that's 1 milligram before bed, usually around 1 to 2 hours, to make you a little bit drowsy. And what some of the guys noticed when they take 5-HTP, melatonin, phenibut, usually phenibut GABA doesn't really change that much, but with phenibut, you notice that there's more intensity to the dreams, and that the term tren nightmare applies, where some people get so much androgenicity in their brain is that they get nightmares. Now, a way around that is by adding a little bit of growth hormone, which in most cases, in combination with 5-HTP, melatonin, and phenibut or GABA, will actually make you dream a little bit more positively and make you more relaxed because it suppresses cortisol as well. So a combination of 1 to 2 units of growth hormone before bed will improve sleep quality and change the tone of the dreams that you might experience on trenbolone, especially higher dosages from the horror scenario to fantasy. Let's just put it that way. You know, dreams can be all over the place, right? So you go from the horror to fantasy. And really, guys, it's very important to sleep according to your circadian rhythm before you add trenbolone to your performance-enhancing drug protocol, because cortisol fluctuates throughout the day. Now, when you're doing a contest prep or a cutting phase, your stress levels go up a little bit because you're doing a little bit more cardio and adding in the fat burners. Now, you're slightly sleep deprived already, adding the trenbolone in, and this very potent androgen makes you sleep even less. So if you don't sleep according to your circadian rhythm and you stay up all night, then this cortisol fluctuation will end up all over the place, and then you really feel irritable and agitated. So if you sleep according to your circadian rhythm before adding trenbolone, and you add in these sleep aids prior, I would also recommend ashwagandha root extract, which reduces your cortisol levels and your stress levels slightly, which will positively impact your ability to deal with tren rage. There's a couple supplements from Derek, More Plates, More Dates, and Gorilla Mind that I highly recommend. One of them is the cortisol blocker, which already contains 250 milligrams of ashwagandha root extract per 2 capsules. So 2 capsules of this before bed is more than sufficient. And then Gorilla Dream also contains ashwagandha root extract of 300 milligrams per 4 capsules. So that's 500 milligrams of ashwagandha root extract combined. Now, Gorilla Dream also contains 500 milligrams of GABA, so you might want to supplement a little bit of additional GABA on top, or add phenibut on top and have a combination of 500 milligrams of GABA with maybe 1,000 to 2,000 milligrams of phenibut. Again, there should be a little bit of synergy there. Or you can use this every other day and use the phenibut in between. It contains 3 milligrams of melatonin. So again, if you really need it, 3 milligrams of melatonin on top. And it also contains several herbal extracts which contribute to overall sleep quality, like lemon balm extract, muconi prurens extract, valerian root extract, chamomile tea. I'm sure you guys are familiar with that. Hops extract and skullcap extract. Now, it doesn't contain 5-HTP, so you would have to supplement 5-HTP on top. And the main reason why Derek didn't add 5-HTP is because when you are on selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, extra serotonin goes a long way. So if you're on an SSRI, you shouldn't add serotonin. Let me preface that. It's probably not a good combination to introduce trenbolone when you're on an SSRI to begin with. So keep that in mind, guys, please. That will really mess with your mood, I'm sure. Now, if you add 5-HTP on top of this to increase your serotonin concentration, the vitamin B6 that's contained within will have the conversion of serotonin into melatonin. So the melatonin, 3 milligrams, 6 milligrams, 2 hours before bed from the supplement or supplementation by itself will put you to sleep. And then 100 to 200 milligrams of 5-HTP in combination with vitamin B6 will keep you asleep because it keeps converting serotonin into melatonin. Now, the last product that I can highly recommend is a liposomal melatonin. I'm not sure if it's focusing because of the ring light. But there's a very good supplement that Derek also produced under the Kosh supplements line. It's a liposomal melatonin, so this is rapidly absorbed. So instead of using a tablet where it needs a few hours to induce sleep, this can probably induce sleep in 1 hour. So this one I would time a little bit closer to bed, maybe after bedtime activities, so you don't feel too drowsy during. Talking from my own experience. Don't take it too early. So you would take the Gorilla Dream supplements maybe 2 hours before bed in combination with 5-HTP, perhaps ketotifen, perhaps growth hormone to improve overall sleep quality. And then take a little bit of liposomal melatonin on top, right before you're ready to go to sleep to put you to sleep and keep you to sleep longer. Now, this overall improved sleep quality will reduce tren rage tremendously, but it won't prevent it. Another way to reduce it is by frequent injections. Now, I'll mention this again in the trenbolone dosing video, so I definitely want to mention it here. You want to keep your serum concentrations on Trenbolone as stable as possible. So it doesn't matter if you even do a super low dose of 100 milligrams of Trenbolone per week. Space those injections out. Trenbolone acetate or Trenbolone enanthate or Trenbolone hex every day for the most stable blood level concentrations. Because again, just like blood sugar levels are fluctuating and causing you to be irritable and angry. And the same thing happens with Trenbolone in between the serum fluctuations. So you want to keep your serum levels as stable as possible with daily administrations. Now, to prevent the insomnia induced by, a super physiological dose of androgens in the bloodstream, you would want to space your Trenbolone injection the furthest away from going to bed, which means you have to inject it basically upon waking. Now, after you inject Trenbolone, of course, these total amount of androgens in the bloodstream, especially considering, like I mentioned in the Tren-cough video, if Trenbolone is in cottonseed or grapeseed or MCT, it's rapidly absorbed into the bloodstream, might inducing a little bit of Tren-cough, and you get a lot of free androgens in the bloodstream. Now, some of those might induce Tren-cough, and the lingering amount of androgens in the bloodstream are going to induce Tren rage. So you want to space that away as far as going to bed as possible, but you want to optimize this anger and aggression and fuel your workout this way. So let's say you use Trenbolone every day upon waking. You go to the gym within 1 hour and release all this anger, release all this frustration, put this Tren rage to work. You'll be very productive in the gym, and by the time you're done with your workout, you're so tired that you don't get another opportunity to rage later points in the day. Unfortunately, we only train 5 days a week, so there's still 2 days of the week where you might induce a little bit of Tren rage. But if you, from my experience and what I tell most of my clients, the guys that use Trenbolone in the morning, right after waking, usually even before fasted cardio, this is the first thing they do is growth hormone administration, the bodybuilding, right? They brush your teeth, Trenbolone administration, and then fasted cardio, maybe a coffee in between. You already get a little bit more agitated, but hey, again, a little bit of agitation and anger during a cardio session is warranted to push you through, unless you get terrible shin splints, but it's another common side effect with Trenbolone. Then you might want to abort the cardio because you're just too frustrated. And it brings up so many memories talking about Trenbolone. It's not good memories. So you get your shot in the morning, you get your cardio in, you get your breakfast in, and then about an hour later, you go to the gym and you release. You release all this bundled up anger and frustration, and you manage it through the gym. That's why it's a horrible idea for the gyms to be closed right now, and for all the guys that are on their Trenbolone. If your gym closes and you don't have home equipment available, you should definitely get off the train, because you won't be able to manage your anger through the gym. But if you have access to the gym, early administrations, cardio, breakfast, go to the gym, let it all out, rage as hard as you want under the weights, and then calm down your sympathetic nervous system, relax, get your other meals in. You might still be a little bit irritable later in the day, but it won't be as bad because you get all this dopamine release and serotonin release and endorphin release during the workout. Because Trenbolone will increase your workout capacity like no others, and it's almost exhilarating to release all this anger and frustration underneath the weights. And I'm sure all of you guys have experienced this already. For the guys that have used Trenbolone, training on Tren, there's nothing that compares. But keep it there. Keep it in the gym and don't bring it with you anywhere else. Because the anger management issue that you have to continuously focus on when you're running Trenbolone is very, very real. And again, the stereotype out there of roid rage, if you're feeding into it because you're on Trenbolone and you're frustrated and angry and irritable, you're just feeding into the stereotype. And now you're putting bodybuilding into a negative spotlight in the general population. So you always have to be Bruce Banner. Always be Bruce Banner and never release the Hulk unless you go to the gym. That's where you get to be the Hulk for an hour or 2 or 1.5 hours, or however long you like to train. You can be a Hulk in the gym and completely rage out and go full Red Hulk if you associate with that. And the rest of the day you're Bruce Banner and you have to keep it in and leveled and under control and control your anger. Improving sleep quality will help tremendously. Dosing your tren every morning upon waking and then releasing in the gym will help tremendously. And then the rest is all mindset and counting to 10. Because, life happens. And whether that's the dishwasher misfunctioning or the internet connection dropping out for a few minutes or anything else that can happen that can set you off, it's not the surroundings. It's you. It's you. It's the tren, man. It's the tren that makes you this unreasonably angry. And yes, you get triggered from the real world and everything that happens, but it's unreasonable. So you'll have to continuously remember that the reaction you have when shit happens is completely unreasonable. Completely. It has nothing to do with what happened. It has to do with the fact that you're on tren and your whole mood system is androgenized. Really. It has nothing to do with the situation, and you have to control to how you respond to a situation while you're running Trenbolone. Count to 10. Calm down. It's not their fault or anybody's fault. It's the tren, man. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you in the next Trenbolone profile video. Oh, and if you're part of the Vigorous crew, you know what to do. Like, share, subscribe, put another comment for the algorithm, fuel it, and push the Trenbolone sandwich to a new audience. See you in the next one.